Week 1 of the 2025 NFL regular season is finally upon us, and my Carolina Panthers will be heading down to Jacksonville, Florida to face off against Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars in the first game of the season. So in this video, I'm going to break down the top storylines heading into the game, give you my opinions on a few key matchups, and finally end off with my final score prediction for this game, and we are going to get into all of that right after this.
I'm from the foe, you dig?
Welcome to The Way I See It with Jamario Rashad. This is a Carolina Panthers fan channel. Please do me a favor by hitting the like button, and please make sure you subscribe as I am on my road to 3K. Trying to make sure my channel continues to grow as we see my Carolina Panthers dominate throughout this season. Now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and get to the video. And for my returning fans, yes, the production value has increased. You're welcome. Tell me if you like it. But to get to the point at hand of this video, the top storyline heading into this game, at least from a Carolina Panthers fan perspective, is just which Bryce Young will we get going into this season. I would like to believe that the Bryce Young that we saw down the final stretch of the 2024 season is the Bryce Young that will be the one that we get for the remainder of his career, and hopefully somebody that develops into something even more than that. But the stats are the stats and the numbers are the numbers. So through the first 28 games of Bryce Young's career, he is only 6-22 as a starter, and he has a 3-2 touchdown to interception ratio, which is absolutely putrid. Now, over the last 5 games of the season, as I mentioned, Bryce began to flourish, but in the final game of the season, the very last time that we actually got to see Bryce Young, so this may be a little bit of recency bias depending on who you ask, but the last time that we seen Bryce Young in a competitive environment in an NFL football game, it was him putting up to the tune of 5 touchdowns up on the Atlanta Falcons, who were fighting for a playoff spot in the final game of the season. Many would argue, and I would agree, that that was the absolute best game that we've seen out of Bryce Young, throwing for 3 touchdowns and putting 2 more additional on the board with using his legs. If that's the Bryce Young that we will get for the foreseeable future and moving into the season, we need to see that flash early in this game, because Bryce Young, if not anything else, has been streaky and inconsistent. But this is the opportunity for him to prove that what we saw at the conclusion of last season was not a fluke, and this is who Bryce Young will absolutely be. This is the best. These are the best weapons he's ever had. This is the continuation of the best O-line he's had through the first couple of seasons in his career. So we need to see what Bryce Young is going to be able to do this season. In this first game, first drive, first everything is going to be used as a barometer for what a lot of people will expect out of this season. Now, the second storyline that I'm pretty sure honestly will probably be the most discussed throughout national media and anywhere outside of the Carolinas, that being Travis Hunter playing in his first NFL game, and the question being, will he continue to be an absolute unicorn in the National Football League, similar to how he was in college football as well as his high school days, so on and so forth. Now, Travis Hunter is currently listed as a starting wide receiver but a backup cornerback on the first official depth chart that has been put out for the season so far. Now, what exactly is he going to do? How exactly are his snaps going to be deployed? I think that gives us a little peek behind the curtain, as the depth chart does, at least, into how they plan on using him. I'm not sure if we can expect a 60-40 mix, but with him playing on both sides of the ball, there's so many scenarios and so many different possibilities about him lining up possibly against Tetairoa McMillan, somebody that he went up against and had a classic game against in college, or possibly being defended by the likes of somebody like J.C. Horn, somebody who was for at least a week or so the highest paid DB in the history of the NFL. There's so many different things, and there's going to be so many millions of eyes tuning in to see what Travis Hunter is going to be able to do in his first official NFL game, in his first NFL action. But something that I am going to be watching closely on, or something that I think is of note, is similar to Bryce Young. Travis Hunter is going to represent a case study for a lot of people to either confirm or disprove a long-standing narrative that has been within the NFL. With Bryce Young, it was nobody that size is going to be able to be an effective quarterback. Nobody is going to be able to nobody's body is going to be able to withstand the hits of the NFL, to which so far through 3 years that's been disproven. Although Bryce Young has not been the most effective in terms of output, one thing he has been able to be is consistently healthy. So those same people that were looking to confirm or either disprove a narrative with Bryce Young, those are going to be the same people that are looking to confirm or either disprove whether or not it is physically possible for somebody, no matter their conditioning, to be able to play on both sides of the ball, to be an effective wide receiver, go out there and score touchdowns, run away from people, to be able to flip to the other side of the ball and be able to just as effectively chase people and prevent them from catching the ball. That would be an absolute anomaly if anybody, including Travis Hunter, the guy that we are looking for as the case study, as I mentioned, that would be an absolute anomaly if anybody would be able to do that. And honestly, that will be the biggest storyline or the biggest takeaway that most people have from this game. But the final takeaway or the final storyline that I think will be the biggest, at least from a Carolina Panthers perspective, is will Tetairoa McMillan live up to the hype of being the 8th overall pick in the draft? In 2024, the Carolina Panthers had the worst defense in the history of planet Earth, the worst defense in the history of the NFL. No collection of men had ever put on helmets, shoulder pads, and a jersey and ever went out there and been more terrible at defending the other team's offense than the 2024 Panthers. Prior to the season beginning, the Carolina Panthers would trade away our star and lone pass rusher, Brian Burns, for only a second-round pick after denying 2 first-round picks in the middle of the season prior. And we would go on to have, again, the worst defense in the history of the NFL. We allowed the most rushing yards in the history of the NFL. We could not get to the quarterback to save our lives. The person or the player that had the most sacks throughout the 2024 season was a journeyman defensive tackle who is known for stopping the run. Shout out to Ashawn Robinson. But those factoids give you a little context into just how bad the Carolina Panthers were on defense in 2024. So to go into the 2025 draft and to use your absolute most valuable draft asset on something that does not complement the worst defense ever, a lot of people are going to look at that as a substantial risk, rightfully so, because why would you not address the worst defense in NFL history? Well, the rebuttal to that is Bryce Young is still somebody that we need to see progress. He is going into his fourth season in the league, somebody who is potentially going to get that fifth season option, and possibly be up for a contract extension after this season. We need to push all the chips forward possible to see if Bryce Young is going to be the guy moving forward for the Carolina Panthers for the foreseeable future and be this franchise quarterback. The way that you do that is by not allowing there to be any excuses for why Bryce Young could not be effective, i.e. drafting the best wide receiver in the draft and allowing him to go out there and be a bona fide number one in a offense that has the best offensive line that Bryce Young has had in his very short career, after drafting an additional first-round receiver in Xavier Legette the year prior and having a breakout star in Jalen Coker, who is unfortunately on IR, but bringing in a former Pro Bowler in Hunter Renfrow. This is undoubtedly the best offense that Bryce Young has had, and Tetairoa McMillan will be the catalyst for us being able to see whether or not Bryce Young is going to be the guy moving forward, man. But that is what I think of the top storylines. What do you all think could be something that overshadows these 3 stories or these 3 happenings? Do you think there's something more important, or do you think there will be eyes on a closer to some? Do you think there will be more eyes on a different part of the game or a different aspect of the game aside from these 3 storylines? Whatever you all think, leave your comments down in the comment section, and we will go on and get to who I believe will be a part of the key matchups in this epic first game of the season. Now, first of all, we are going to start in the trenches with somebody who is a very divisive player for the Carolina Panthers. And in my short amount of research, I have found out that he is going against somebody who I don't really understand why, but is supposedly a divisive player amongst the Jags fan base as well. I'm talking about the Carolina Panthers left tackle Ike Ekwonu, the man in charge of protecting Bryce's blind side and keeping him upright so that he can actually use his new wide receivers against Travon Walker, former number one pick, highly debated number one pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, Ike Ekwonu, it is still up in the air. It is still up in the air whether or not he is actually even going to play in this game after he had a surprise emergency surgery just about a week ago. He had to have an appendectomy after having some severe random stomach pains. He hasn't been practicing this week, but head coach Dave Canales said all signs are pointing to whether or not he will what will determine whether or not he is going to be available to play is how well he performs in practice on Friday ahead of the game. So although he hasn't performed up until this point in the week, today being Thursday, if he's actually able to get out there on the field, he will be the active starter, as you want to have continuity out there when you want to go out there and establish what you are going to be in the season. You do not want to have a backup in there. You want to have the guy that has been in the trenches for you all off season, all OTAs, all training camp. You need for that to be your top 10 drafted just a few years ago left tackle. So that is who I expect to be in this game, but it could be Yosh Nijman, a backup swing tackle that we picked up from the Packers last season. I really hope it's not the case, but for the sake of this video, we are going to just talk about Ike Ekwonu. Now, as Ike Ekwonu is coming off an injury, on the flip side of that, Travon Walker is coming off of back-to-back 10 sack seasons, and he's looking to officially go ahead and break out and become one of the top edge rushers, or one of the more known and one of the more lauded edge rushers in the league, with yet another back-to-back two-back performance. And he's looking to start that performance out in the first game of the season against Ike Ekwonu. I believe it is going to be imperative for Ike to show that he is deserving of possibly getting an extension after this season, because up to this point, although Ike Ekwonu has been an absolute road grader when it comes to run blocking, he has been very, very inconsistent when it comes to protecting out whomever is taking snaps at the quarterback. When it comes to pass protection, we need for him to show that this is going to be the season that he steps up. He's taking his conditioning, he's taking his job, he's taking everything seriously, and put all of those talents that he had pre-draft and all of the things that we thought that he could be before bringing him to the Carolinas. We need him to put all of that together and put it on display in this first game to keep Travon Walker off of Bryce's backside, because if Bryce does not have time to throw, then we will not be able to see the second year of a Jatavian Sanders looks like. We won't be able to see what a second year of a Xavier Legette looks like, and we definitely will not be able to see what Tetairoa McMillan is like if we are not even able to keep Bryce upright long enough for him to get through one or two reads and get the ball out of his hands. We are already going to have to deal with Josh Hines Allen rushing from the other side, but I have a lot more confidence in Taylor Moton being able to contain him than I do with Ike Ekwonu being able to hold down Travon Walker. So that is going to be a very I think that is going to be a very telling matchup when it comes to this game. That is going to be something that could either make or break the effectiveness of this Carolina Panthers offense. If Ike gets dominated like he's prone to do early in seasons before getting it on track, this could be a very long day for the Carolina Panthers. But the second matchup that I would like to discuss is going to be on the boundaries this time. We are no longer in the trenches. We are no longer with the big guys. We are out there with the skill position players, and I am talking about our number one corner, the highest paid DB for about 3 days in NFL history, J.C. Horn, going up against Brian Thomas Jr., who had one of, if not the best wide receiver season in Jacksonville Jaguars history. Now, J.C. Horn, as I mentioned, just got the bag this offseason. He is looking to continue to progress, looking to continue to develop, and looking to state his claim for being to prove everybody, including PFF, who has him outside of the top 10 cornerbacks in the league. He's looking to disprove all the negative narratives around his name, proving that he can stay healthy, proving that when he is on the field, he is absolutely dominant, and he's looking to do that in the first game of the season against somebody who is looking to be one of the most promising young receivers in the NFL. Now, Brian Thomas in his rookie season had 1,282 yards to the tune of 10 touchdowns, and he had a 106.2 passer rating when targeted. He was an absolute beast, one of Trevor Lawrence's best friend last season, and he showed his talents immediately as soon as he stepped foot in the NFL. Now, on the flip side of that, J.C. Horn on a per-game basis only allowed 2.4 catches and 28 yards per game in 2024, being an absolute lockdown corner whenever he was targeted, pretty much, virtually taking wide receivers out of the game whenever they were lined up on his side of the field. So, with Brian Thomas seeming to be somewhat unstoppable so early in his career, and J.C. Horn being somebody that is prone to putting the seatbelts on receivers no matter who they would be, this is going to be a very, very exciting matchup to watch throughout the game. Brian Thomas Jr. now has the threat of Travis Hunter on the other side of the field. We don't know just how effective he's going to be. We don't know how Ejiro Evero, which side of the field he is going to be funneling that safety help to. If Travis Hunter can prove to be an effective threat early in the game and open up some one-on-one opportunities for Brian Thomas on the outside against J.C. Horn, I can see Trevor Lawrence taking a few shots down the field and there being some opportunity for some big plays in this game. Whether that goes good or bad for the offense or the defense, that is to be decided when the game plays out. But how that plays out, I think, will be a very big determining factor on how this game eventually plays out on the scoreboard, man. So finally, now that I've talked about the key storylines, now that we know, who I think the key matchups are, let me give you my final prediction for how I think week 1, game 1, 2025 Panthers Jags is going to play out. I think it is going to end 24-18 for the good guys, the Carolina Panthers, bringing it home in the final quarter or the final minutes of the game. I think it will be a relatively low start for both teams as offenses look to get their rhythm. I think the combination of Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle will be the engines early for the Carolina Panthers, keeping us competitive, keeping us at least getting field goals consistently, at least getting us to the other side of the 50, giving us a chance to actually put points on the board. I think in the end the game will be close, but I think Bryce will put together a game-winning drive, including several third down conversions from a guy formerly known as Third and Renfro, getting on a complete tear and a absolute wavelength with Hunter Renfrow being the starting slot going into week 1. And I think the game will be won on a spectacular fade ball in the corner to our rookie phenom, Tetairoa McMillan, starting his campaign for the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year for the 2025 season, man. And those are my thoughts, and that is my preview and breakdown for how I feel Carolina Panthers, Jacksonville Jaguars will play out, man. What do you all think about my breakdown? How do you all think this thing is gonna play out? Please leave your final score down in the comment section, and who do you think will be responsible for us getting there if you feel like adding that much information, man. But until next time, I am Jamario Rashad. This is the way I see it, and I'm out. Peace.